It's time for another Dice Tower review with the Chief, Bart Brunscheen.
Hey, it's the Chief from the Dice Tower. I'm joined again with Judd Vance. So there's Judd giving you his peace symbol. We're going to be talking about Roads to Stalingrad. The designer's name, I can't roll the R.
Francisco Ronco.
Very good. My wife's Puerto Rican, and I should be able to roll. I got this game to play from the designer because Judd had talked about this as what number was it?
I believe it's number 3 or 4 on my top 5 of all time.
Right, and it's the same kind of system called the Campaign Commander series?
Campaign Command series. That's volume 2. Roads to Stalingrad is volume 1. There's Punic Island is number 3.
But today we're going to focus on Roads to Stalingrad. Operational level combat war game, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it's got Judd says it best. He says that it's as if the designer had never played any other war games before.
Yeah, I mean, you see games that copy from other games, whether it's a card-driven game or, movement, zone and control, things like that. When you play this, it's like, wow, he was in a vacuum. He never played another one. He doesn't borrow anything. It's just very, very original.
But go ahead and break down those unique differences real quick.
The biggest one is combat. Your units do not have attack values on them. They have cohesion values. It's a chit pull system. You draw so many chits, there's rules for it, and you play them. And the rules are, it might say you have to check one of your own units, bad organization. You do something that makes the other guy check a Stuka attack, or maybe it's a flank attack and you both have to check your cohesions. You'll either deplete a unit, which flips it, or disorganize it, which makes it retreat, gain a marker that's going to cause it to stay it's going to hurt it for a long time until you remove it.
Yeah, it's very unique. It doesn't... When you're having your side combat, it doesn't really feel like you're grinding out a combat, but the way it resolves is very much the umbrella effect of what combat would be. I mean, you've got chits that are going to be a flank attack, or you might have air assault or air support from Stukas, and those have the same desired effect. So it feels very, very historical. But Judd had warned me as we started to play. He said, this is going to feel, what'd you say, like disconnected, or it feels unintuitive, because it's not like your tank is flanking me and shooting at me.
Yeah, there's no combat results table. There's no bucket of dice. I roll and I hit on every 5 or 6 or anything like that. And what's weird is the more you play it, the more you see the beauty of it. And it becomes tactical in nature. Okay, which unit do I want to check cohesion? This more powerful unit, or can I risk this other unit? And I know I got this other chit coming in my hand that's going to do this other stuff. And it has this whole tactical feel to it within the operational game.
We'll go in and we'll take a closer look, but that is definitely, its supply is key. You want to do a lot of maneuver. You want to do pincer type actions. Excuse me. And the only way to fully kill a unit is to completely cut it off and then attack it. Otherwise, you're just getting retreats out of it, and they're falling back, and they're weakened, and they're in disarray. And as you see whole units get disorganized, it's disorganized and then have to start pulling back. And then if you can get in on them again, they're pretty much forced to fall back again. But you don't just outright kill units. You have to really maneuver and plan. And I don't know, sometimes it's good if you can do a pocket, though, and capture a ton of them. It's very historical in terms of that. So heavy on maneuver, really heavy on logistics and supply. Railheads are covered. They even go into Stalingrad. There's these cards that are in there. We'll show you some of the cards. Let's just go in and we'll show you some key parts of the components. I'm going to break this down into like 4 different sections here. I wanted to show you an overall of the map, because first of all, you're going to see the Volga, and what you have you're going to have minor little rivers that you're going to see kind of in here, and I'll zoom in a little bit later. Then you're going to have major rivers, and then you have the Volga. And what it does is it basically affects your cohesion just as you would expect. It's very difficult to do combat across a river. And it gets harder the larger that river base is. And in the Volga, you can cross, but it takes all of your movement to cross, and you can't do combat after or as you cross. That's real brief. There's a little bit more to it than that, but I wanted to show that. This gives you a good feeling of the map. Stalingrad is right there. You've got the oil fields down over here in kind of the north and the south areas. All I've got set up are these units here, and I'm going to move in on these and show you kind of what's going on with the units and some different little things with setup. So here we have a major river. These are the different zones that coordinate your movement, how far away you are from supply and such. If you ever have a border with a river, that also counts as a dashed line. This little area here is actually showing you what unit is going to go on the map in initial setup. This is my only small issue I have with the game. I'm getting old, my eyes aren't that good, and you just cannot really see the exact unit. I actually had to have Judd be my seeing eye dog, and he had to basically do setup for me. So they've got these little things. They're a little bit easier to see for the Russians. You might see them around on the map, but boy, did I have a hard time seeing these. Now, this has been fixed in the Coral Sea and the other games where there's a separate little map offset that shows you exactly how to do setup, and that's key. The turn starts very interestingly. You can just kind of see here, just know that this is the symbol of the map board, and on the flip side, you've got cards. I'm going to show you some of the cards here in a little bit. This is not a card-driven game, no matter what definition you use, but it's got these cards that give you historical flavor and give you a lot of different tactical options. But let's go back to the map side real quick. Now, if it turns out like this, then the Germans are going to be moving units on the map. The Russians are not, but the Russians are going to be doing some card play. Had we, it would be vice versa if the Germans wanted to do card play. Had both sides put out a map, you look towards the initiative, and then there's a die roll off. Whichever unit has the initiative gets a little bit of a bonus on the die roll. So if both guys play map, one of the two of them is not going to be able to do anything. One of the two players, depending on the season, are going to have the advantage, and then there's going to be a dice roll off, and whoever wins that roll, they're going to be able to do the actions they want on the board. The other player won't do anything this turn. So there is a bit of a bluffing system that's going on here. Now, you're saying, okay, so sometimes I can't even do anything on the map? Well, that's correct, but you've got a whole deck of cards that you're going to be using, and you're going to have 5 in your hand. Now, some of these cards are quite key. Some of them you're going to be able to use during combat. Some of them are going to be key things that do with supply or resupply or bonuses if you take a railhead. And the Russians in particular in this game are trying to get through a certain amount of cards, because as you move through your cards, it's showing the passage of time, and it's going to bring on the winter. And as soon as winter comes, everything shifts and it becomes much more difficult, just like the historic nature, for the Germans to maneuver and fight and everything else. So in this particular game, the Russians oftentimes are wanting to play cards instead of maneuver on the map. But it's a very unique system in that you start off each round with, what are we going to do? Am I going to play a card? Am I going to do movement on the map? We resolve that. And then whichever player has control on the map then just starts moving their units around. And you're going to activate a unit when it moves into a zone that has an enemy unit in it. They'll engage in combat. Everything else stops. You're going to do all your chip pulling. A unit's going to end up, you'll fight that battle until someone loses it. That unit will have to retreat, or those units will have to retreat to the closest supply area, and then you'll go on to your next unit that you're going to move. When you activate a supply center, you're actually going to be, you put one of these on there, if I can get it on, sorry for the Band-Aid. That just shows that you're using up that supply center. You're going to have an area on the map that gives you 6 supply units, and you can move any units that are within 3 zones of that supply center. So I can move any of these units. I could even move, well, originally I had one here, but 1, 2, 3, so he would be able to be moved. All of these can move. Armor is going to cost 2 of your supply units when you move, and infantry is going to just cost you 1. There's some other little areas where you might have to spend a little bit more of those points, but that's the gist. As you activate units, you're going to move them 1 stack at a time. So if it creates a combat, you're literally going to pause everything else. You're going to take your units, you're going to pull them off map, and you're going to battle them. And then you'll go on, and after that's over, you're going to resolve the rest of your movements based on the amount of supply you have. And let me go show you how a combat works, because the combat is very, very different and unique in this system. All right, the key elements on these chits are going to be these numbers here. You're going to have your tactical number, which I'm going to explain in a second. You're going to have your movement, and then you're going to have your cohesion. Now you'll notice down here real quick to point out on movement for the Germans, normally they can move 2, but if they're going to battle, they're only going to be able to move 1. So that's why you're seeing this is emphasized. The armor unit here and here, they can move 3 and they can still battle. I'm going to cover this tactical point first. What the tactical number means is going to be the number of chits that you're going to be drawing, and I'm going to show you those in a second. And the chits are going to determine what type of attacks that you're going to be pulling off. The 5 is going to be your cohesion, and it's basically the number you're going to want to be rolling that number or less in order to keep from being depleted, which is the same as a step lost. It just flips your counter. I've got some chits laid out. Now normally they're not going to be laid out like this, but this tactical number right here is 1. The Russian unit would only be drawing 1 chit from a cup. I've got several laid out just so you can see the difference, because obviously you're not going to know what you're pulling out of the cup. The number just to the right of the unit insignia, for the Germans it's the 2 and for the Russians it's the 1. That's their tactical number, and that's the number of chits they're going to be able to pull. So the Germans are going to be able to pull out 2 chits, and they'll be able to play them in whichever order they want. Sometimes the chits are good for you. Every once in a while they're bad for you. I'm going to show you some examples of the Russian ones. So I'm going to bring in this fortification. The fortification is going to give you a die roll modifier that is +2. So it's going to bring his number 5 cohesion level up to a 7. And then you're going to roll a 10-sided die. So right off the bat, if he's being attacked by the German, which he will be, he's helping himself out, and it's going to be much harder to break the unit. So here's a Katusha. Now the Katusha is not going to help my cohesive level. What it's doing is a +3 to the die roll against the German level. So you can see, I know it's hard to spot, but that's a 6 for the German. So now my die roll is actually going to be, or the Germans' die roll is going to be increased by 3. The Stuka for the Russians, or for the Germans, does a similar thing. All right, here I've laid down the assault counter. The Germans have one that looks different, but it works essentially identically the same. And with the assault, it's more dangerous maneuver, and what happens here is both sides end up checking against their cohesion level. So you're going to have to actually check against yourself, even though this is a Russian chit. He's going to have to make sure that his own cohesion doesn't break during the assault. All right, here's a nice flavor token. This is a Russian-only token, or a chit. It's a human wave, and it's got a real nice effect. The Germans are going to be checking against their depleted level, so the Russians have literally thrown, like it says, a human wave at them. But what's interesting is that chit is going to automatically deplete the Russian unit. So the Russian unit has to play it, and it's going to flip him when he's done, and he's going to get a step loss. And you can see how that affects him. His cohesion's gone down. So if you draw the chit and you're the Russian, now if you have multiple units in there, or a unit actually that has a higher tactical level, which the Germans usually do, you might be drawing 2 or 3, or the Germans with a tank are drawing 4 of these chits at one time. Again, this Russian is only drawing 1 at his tactical level. But if you're drawing multiples, you're going to have to play them all unless you can get rid of the unit that you're fighting. But you'll eventually be forced to get each one of them in play. And here is what looks like a broken radio. Now, if you have the broken radio, you only check against yourself on your cohesion. So you can see the Germans have one that's identical to this. So this chit play system is very unique. As long as there's 2 units from each side that are viable, that are alive, that are in the fight, you'll continue this chit pull. Even if you run out of chits in a fight, you're just going to throw the chits you've used back in and draw some more out. So all battles will resolve down to, now you're not killing the unit, it's usually just going to be disorganized, and it's going to be forced to retreat back to its closest supply center. And that's really it. You get some very simple gameplay here, but it's very difficult for me to explain this to you because it's very unique even to me. This, remember, is a series, and the main rules are going to be the same for the other games in the series. And then the rule book has the specific spices, if you will, that are going to be used in that particular game. The company's name, which I forgot to say earlier, is Bellica 3rd Generation. The designer is also the owner of the company. This is a game from Spain, and I'm telling you, take a look at it. Really, really interesting. I'm not even doing it justice here, but it is a fresh, unique, operational level combat system.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.